7, 6.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to U.S. Sailing's Starboard Portal. Today, we've got some great content lined up for you. We have two of our U.S. Sailing team men's 49ers, who are Nevin Snow and Dane Wilson, and their coach, Mark Asquith. This is a Q&A, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the live chat. And with that, we'll get things started. Welcome, boys. Thanks for being here. First off, congratulations for winning the U.S. trials for the 49er class with your two top 20 finishes at the 2019 and 2020 49er Worlds. Let's begin there, Nevin. Can you share with us what it feels like and how that journey was over the last year?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we just wrapped up the 2020 Worlds in Geelong in Australia. And for Dane and I mean, this has kind of been, you know, all of our existence as friends so far. We just started sailing about a year ago together. And, you know, the goal was to do well at the Olympic trials. And, you know, we had expectations and things like that. But, you know, it was basically just a year of hard work and working on the tiny details together because, I don't know, a year is such a small amount of time with respect to 4 years of an Olympic quad or, you know, many more years that other people have in the boat. So for us, it's, I don't know, we've been kind of living in a bubble in a way. So this is kind of a big exhale for us to have, you know, accomplished a goal that almost felt out of reach, but, you know, it was within reach. So it's cool.
Yeah, no, an amazing feat with just 1 year. Dane, do you have anything you want to add to Nevin's comments?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a pretty surreal experience. I think coming into it, I've done a lot of sailing on my own, and Nevin's done a lot of sailing on his own. And I think coming together, it was a lot about just trying to piece a team together really quickly. And it was hard and tough, but super fun and rewarding. And yeah, I was super happy how it turned out, as you'd expect. And yeah.
Yeah, no, awesome. And I think that tees up our very first question as a good one is, how did you two team up to begin with?
Yeah,
Nevin, you want to?
Yeah, I can kind of take that one. Well, I was without a teammate starting in February of last year, and sort of was scrambling, didn't totally know what to do. Talked to, you know, our coach Mark is here too, was calling him most days, and we were just kind of doing some brainstorming. And, you know, I gotta credit Willie McBride, one of the FX and development coaches, for, you know, recommending Dane. Him and Dane had sailed together a ton. So he knew all about him, even though Dane hadn't been sailing Olympic classes for a couple of years. And, you know, I basically just called him and was, you know, before we committed to anything, it was like, why don't you just come out to Miami and we can do some sailing together. And that's sort of how it happened. Luckily we had a little time to kind of lead up to our first event, even though it wasn't much, but it happened as simple as that. You know, I wanted to keep sailing and didn't have a teammate at the time, and, you know, and Dane came to save the day.
Yeah, I think kind of my side of the story, it seemed very kind of out of the blue. I was going to UCSD down in San Diego, doing the Formula Kite pretty full time. And then some rainy afternoon, I got like a random call. I was like, what's up, this is Nevin. Do you want to sail 49ers? And yeah, I knew his brother really well, but I'd never met Nevin. And it was like, yeah, love 49ers, and kind of just dropped school, dropped everything, and sailing full time. It's a great decision. So
not looking back, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can defer that senior year forever.
The beauty of it was too that like we had a great program already kind of in place with Mark and the U.S. sailing team, and so there was kind of like there was already a schedule, there was boats, there was all this sort of stuff lined up. So kind of joining up like that wasn't impossible, I guess.
Awesome. Mark, do you want to kind of touch on just that streamlined process that you've set up for partners to jump in on a campaign and some ease of training?
Well, the plan was in place for Nevin's program or campaign much further ahead than what he's talking about. You know, everything had been already mapped out for the next 18 months, 2 years, right up through to the trials time. So when he suddenly lost his teammate, it was basically just a rush to find somebody who could fill that spot in a position where they could complete the rest of the campaign as it was mapped out, sort of slotted into a size frame that worked and was actually worthwhile taking on board. And it's a super difficult position to be in, I think, because Nevin had to find somebody who he could instantly work with, get on the water, and the communication and the environment that the two of them were going to go into was immediately going to be intense. So it was quite a challenge, making sure that the guys gave themselves enough space that they could get to understand each other, get to feel out each other's strengths and weaknesses, whilst also finding themselves in Princess Sophia Regatta within a few weeks of sailing together. So it was interesting times, you know. It was a good roller coaster, but there was a little bit going on just to keep everybody's expectations at a good level, and give Dane a little bit of space to find his feet again in a full-on campaign.
Well, sounds like we had success on that front. And that kind of tees up the next question from the audience is, we'll start with you, Dane, is how do you see yourself complementing Nevin's skills in the boat and even just on the whole with the campaign responsibilities?
I don't know. I think Nevin's pretty competent in most areas. Like he's got everything together. I think coming in, I've done a lot of skiff sailing. So I think just from, I guess, a little bit of skiff tactics here and there and some speed, I think that was my biggest contribution kind of off the bat. But Nevin's campaign was pretty flawless, kind of stepped in, and it was a very easy transition for me. I could really just focus on learning to be a crew, getting back in the boat, getting stronger. So in that sense, I think it was really easy for me, and it's good.
And Nevin, kind of what are the complementing attributes of Dane that have helped make this a success?
Sure. Yeah, it's probably easier to talk about the other person than yourself, I guess. But, you know, I think Dane brings like a really good level, a steady, you know, sort of level to our communication and our attitude on board. You know, it was like Mark was saying, it's really hard over the past year because, you know, we're starting at the first step in like a, you know, many mile long road, and we needed to be near the finish really soon, right? And that was really hard for us at times. It was really hard for me. You know, we'd have moments of brilliance where it was like, man, we're going to be good when we figure this out, and that was really rewarding. And then there was other times where, you know, we hadn't put in the legwork to really be good at some of the basics, and that obviously hurts or stings, you know, especially when we're both really, you know, we're pretty accomplished or we kind of knew what the right things we're supposed to look like, right? We just couldn't quite do it at the time. So I think Dane brought a really good, you know, level of sort of a steady attitude to our campaign, especially when, you know, either I wanted to rush or whatever it was. So I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Nevin is gently saying the two guys set super high standards of each other, of themselves first and of each other. So so when things break down a little bit, both of them take it personally on the grounds that given the space, it's nothing that they can't do. But to inject themselves straight into a intense competition and be able to pull it all out at the same time, there were challenges. And the guys have done a great job at recognizing those, trying to take a step back away from the competition whenever possible, and practice it until they can actually achieve it at the standards they expect it to be done at.
Awesome. There's a question for you, Mark. How have you seen the evolution of their sailing develop from when they first got in the boat to who they are today and the type of sailing they're doing? Kind of your perspective.
Oh. Yeah. I think that the 49er is really demanding of the helm and the crew. So as soon as you can get a team that's working absolutely in unison the whole way through, you're onto a winner. As individuals, I think they've both got huge amounts of talent for stepping on board and having great feel on what things are needed. But I'd say their evolution has come from how to get the best from each other. And that's really shown when the chips are down and the races are tough. The guys have still got respect for each other, to talk it through, work it out, and make sure that the next race that they go straight into doesn't have a knock-on effect. It's not rolling through the whole of the afternoon. So they can have a bad race, but they can pick each other up and sail the next race fresh. And I think developing that as a team has really helped them pick up a regatta rather than just individual races.
Awesome. Okay, another kind of, that was a lot of on the water talk, but wanting to know how you and the coaches are working now in this environment towards qualifying for the games, both physically and mentally. Kind of what are you doing from home? Do you want to start with that, Nevin?
Sure. Well, I mean, the U.S. sailing team, they're doing a great job of keeping the athletes engaged on a daily basis, whether it's, group discussions on anything from tactic, whether to, campaign management, to rules and diet, nutrition. So sort of an overarching U.S. sailing team's doing a great job, setting the level for everyone. And then outside of that, within our team, we're taking an hour and a half or two each day to kind of work through, a massive document about, our goals, our strengths, our weaknesses, moments of improve, just all these sorts of things that you can imagine with a huge campaign. We're just sort of breaking everything down to the bare bones and, trying to draw a plan out of it in a way for when we can go sailing again. And then, maybe some action items for things we can just be doing at home right now, like fitness, nutrition, things like that. So I think we're getting more efficient as the weeks go on with our time at home right now, and feeling like we're getting stuff done for the campaign, but certainly looking forward to when things return to normal too, because we've got some good stuff to work on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a follow-up question, wanting to know what the fitness at home looks like. Maybe Dane, you want to walk us through one of your daily routines or?
Yeah. I recently started working with Micah at Force, and he's been sending me a bunch of just body and bar workouts. So I've been doing that 4 to 5 times a week. And then I've been on my bike. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's make as much progress as you can with the limited access that we do have, because there's no gyms and you can't really do the things that you normally want to do. But yeah, the programming has been awesome so far, and hopefully made a little bit of a jump right now. But there's not much else to do except for fitness right now, so might as well get after it.
Yeah, no, definitely. The follow-up was, do you find it hard to stay disciplined in a home environment?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you have to be pretty diligent about. It's easy kind of just to slip into being relaxed and taking it easy. But I think you have to think about it a year and a half down the road and make sure that you're happy with kind of the results that you see then, and not worry about how it feels right now. Each little step you make today is going to help you in the future. So keep reminding yourself about that.
Yeah, keep your eye on the prize.
Exactly.
Nevin, do you want to talk a little bit about what you eat as an athlete to stay in shape and able to run through these your physical training, and then keeping yourself prepared for when you do get back on the water?
Sure.
I know it's not cookies and ice cream.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, no. Well, I mean, while we're at home right now in quarantine, it's just kind of eating healthy, eating clean. Lots of greens, and just a good mixture of everything. I'm lucky enough to be staying with my parents right now, and we make some good meals together as a group. But I think one of the things, on our big list of campaign action items is to keep honing our nutrition when we're training and on the water especially. I think one of our goals is to get some more kind of like power foods and fruits and things like that onto the coach boat for some of our longer days. So yeah, those are just kind of, I don't know if I have any sort of like food item plugs necessarily. I've been making a lot of smoothies just because I can kind of drink that over the course of an hour or so and kind of keep doing things. But I don't know.
At this point, you'd have to say both Nevin and Dane are fairly lucky that they fall quite naturally into the correct weight for the 49er. So unlike some classes where sailors, athletes have to work really hard to maintain a weight or increase a weight, decrease a weight, their weight management is just about eating healthy, and providing they do that with some exercise, their weights are good for the class.
Awesome. Great. So another question that came in was, how has your sailing in college helped you racing at an international level and the Olympic level? Nevin, do you want to start with this one?
I'll take that one. Okay. Yeah, it's certainly helped. It helps, when you're managing, certainly like the 49er, for instance, the top marks get really crowded, and it's not quite like the tactics are a bit different than they are in smaller dinghies that are either slower or heavier, slower. So for instance, like in an FJ or a 420 in college, you might put these really tight lee bows on people to kind of sneak in at the weather mark. And in the 49er, you can't really do that because of how much the boat slows down and the tacks. And so you're kind of like, your sort of perception on the moves that you have needs to widen, because you might be ducking people or crossing people and doing moves around the marks that I hadn't thought about in college sailing. But I guess in college sailing, the races are so tight because they're only 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so, that you're still doing types of moves like those at all the turning points and the corners of the race course, that I think complements just thinking about it in the 49er as well. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few bad habits from college sailing that, we're still trying to break to this day or trying to figure out. But for the most part, just that kind of quick action type racing, it's certainly, they're similar. They're not the same, but they're similar.
Definitely. And just kind of to follow up, what was your thought process for starting the campaign after graduating from college sailing?
I knew I wanted to try and sail. I wanted to keep sailing competitively after school. I'd been successful in college sailing, so there was I definitely had at least a few people that I knew would support me in that. Not least of which are my parents, so that was all good. And then in college sailing, you're with your teammates all the time, whether it's a 10-person team or a 50-person team, and you're going sailing usually with the same crew or skipper most days, literally almost every day. And I wasn't really ready to give that challenge up, that that teamwork, teammate, just 2-person boat. those types of skills and experience up. I wasn't, I'd sailed a lot of lasers and thought about doing that, or match racing where there's 4 or 5 people, but the 49er just kind of just seemed to fit all the things that I wanted to do. And yeah, I mean, that was the first step, was just getting to that point. So if that sounds good.
Yeah, no, awesome. And Dane, what about your decision to defer? How did that kind of come into play? And
well, I don't know. I've always kind of taken a pretty different approach to kind of the sailing stuff. I never did any college sailing, or went into the 49ers as a skipper sailing with Willie McBride right out of high school, and did city college while I sailed with him. So I think I just really love the 49er, and it's an amazing boat and really fun to sail. So when I went to UCSD and was doing some of the formula kiting stuff, it was kind of not really in the back of my mind, but I hopped in a couple of regattas here and there, but never anything too seriously. So when the opportunity came to do a serious campaign and really get as good as you possibly can get, I think it was a pretty easy decision for me.
Well, you were kind of half thinking about it too, Dane, because kiting is the whole idea of kiting in the Olympics. You were sort of halfway there to thinking about it already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for the 2024, kind of thinking finish school and then do a campaign in the kites possibly, and see how that worked. But I don't know, this seemed better.
Yeah, seize the opportunity in the moment. All right, and Nevin, we can have you start with this one. Is how do you manage the tactics on board between the two of you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're still, in a way, it's a fluid relationship, I guess, between us and tactics. But I think the skipper on our boat, myself, I'm calling a lot of the tactics around the race course. And then there's various points around the race course that we talk about a lot where Dane has more influence. Either it's, he has more opportunities to look around the course at those times. So for instance, on the downwind, he's trimming the spinnaker. So he's kind of looking off the front of the boat, off the front of the kite, and outside of us, to our right, for instance, if we were on starboard for breeze, and kind of influencing, our choices that way. But for the most part, I think this is similar to most boats in the 49er fleet. The skipper's kind of calling the tactics because the crew just has so much on physically, and because they have so much on physically, they have a lot on mentally, just to keep everything straight between literally every single control line on the boat, hoisting, dousing the spinnaker, holding the spinnaker, and basically dancing around the boat, keeping it going fast. So
awesome. I have to ask this one. We can lead up to a little bit of both of your backgrounds, but Sabbath or Opties in terms of what you sailed growing up?
Oh, I did both. So
International Naples Sabbath.
Represent growing up at San Diego Yacht Club, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Long Beach and South. It's all about the Sabbath, Naples Sabbath.
Can you speak to anything that kind of you took from your Sabbath days that are still holding true, from anything with how you learned how to prep your boat, to tuning, to just some of the different skill sets that you learned early on?
Yeah, I think, the Sabbath's it's a cool boat because it has, you can kind of tinker on it a little bit more than the Opti maybe, the Vang and the Outhull and the Cunningham, it's all like right at your fingertips. And so in that respect, pretty quickly you're thinking, as soon as you can learn and sail and you're racing and thinking about racing, you're kind of thinking about sail shape and all that stuff, which is obviously super important in Olympic classes in the 49er. But we also, in one respects, like you can't sail a Sabbath in the ocean, it would just explode. So it would sail on these tiny race courses in little, inland bays and ponds and turning basins and stuff. So pretty quickly, you're kind of already doing like high school and college style races. And like we talked about earlier, that has some relation to the 49er. So I think maybe, that's certainly why I think a lot of the Sabbath sailors from Southern California end up being pretty great college sailors around the country, is the tiny courses and the shiftiness and stuff. So yeah, I think just slowly it just kind of trickled down to the 49er for me.
Yeah, definitely. Dane, do you have anything to add? You kind of have both sailing multiple boats growing up, kind of jumping into the Opti. I know you were a little bit further north up in Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
So a little different experience.
Yeah, I think the Sabbath allows you, like kind of what Nevin was saying, is the smaller fleet stuff, kind of working like shiftier little basins and stuff like that. And you kind of work on, I guess, fleet management stuff. I stopped sailing Sabbats when I was 12 and then transitioned over to the Opti. And so I only had three years of Opti sailing, but kind of that fleet management kind of carries over really well, because if you think about groups of boats as one little Sabbath, then you kind of just learn how to fleet manage and kind of play a bigger fleet pretty much the same as you would in a Sabbath. I think the Opti teaches you a little bit more about waves and bigger courses, but I think they're both really valuable. And if you're good in one, you're a good sailor. So I don't think there's, I don't know, as neutral as possible here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to just developing that passion as a kid, right? That wanting to go out and be competitive and learn as much as you can.
Yeah, I think Sabbats keep a lot of kids in just because it's a smaller fleet and everyone knows each other, and it's you get to race against the same people all the time, and I think that's really cool. And then sometimes international bigger stuff where you don't know anybody is kind of fun too. So a little bit of both.
Yeah, I sailed for a year at San Francisco Yacht Club too, so I shouldn't hit on the Opti so hard. I sailed it for a year, and it taught me a lot of independence too. Sailing, at least in San Francisco in your Opti, you kind of get over your fear of, big breeze in San Francisco Bay pretty quickly, and you're capsizing and you're riding your own boat and things like that. So there's a lot to be said for both, I think. I guess to be political, but yeah, go Sabbats.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's space for both. I don't know, Mark, you have some kids, are they of sailing age? Have you started taking them out at all?
Yeah, they're straight into the Opti. But there's no such things as Sabbats and things in the UK. So the Optimist class is massive. Not that I'd be encouraging them into it. If they want to go and do it, then we go and take a boat out and we go and mess around. But there's no beating them with a stick to get into a boat just so I can go and watch them. I think it's much more about the fun of getting out there, and if they start asking me to do more, then we'll take it when it comes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then the slingshot boogie came up in comments. Nevin, you want to tell us about your signature starting strategy?
Oh yeah. No, I'm trying to think. It was probably someone from Georgetown that
I haven't heard of that
about it.
So.
A past coach.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think about. To me, it meant so many different things because my friends and I would just say it. Would just say it when we wanted to do something fun on the starting line or away. But I'm thinking like in team racing, when you're on you have teammates on your team, and you would just take out someone else's, like the pair the other guys lined up with, and he would get an awesome start, and you would just take his guy out totally. So yeah, I don't know. We used to have, and we'd match race a lot, and to kind of make it fun here in San Diego, we'd have all these funny names for like just normal things, like a double tack or something like that. We'd call it like Pink Pony and all these stupid names, and it was pretty fun.
Right. Sounds like we should start
we
naming.
haven't made it. That hasn't made it to the 49er yet. All the code names.
Yeah.
To be continued, huh?
Yeah.
Better put out a play sheet for him.
Yeah. No, it was fun.
we're gonna shift a little bit to some more casual questions. What's your favorite sailing movie? And you can't say wind. And Dane, we can start with you.
I don't know. I don't think I have one. I don't know. I grew up pretty out of the sailing world, so I would sail and then go do other stuff and not really think about it. So I don't think I have a sailing movie.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, there we go.
Good one.
I just watched Maiden. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Documentary about the women's around the world team. That was it was good. It was really well produced.
Super inspiring.
So.
And your Pirates of the Caribbean, Mark?
Well, I just enjoy watching some of the Volvo 70 footage, and there's so much online video now. I wouldn't say there's a movie favorite of mine. I think it's just scanning online and looking at some of the more extreme, what they can do with the bigger yachts now, and the open 60 racing and stuff. It's just incredible how they get them to balance and the speed they get out of them. It's on a fine line, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, some of the clips they're able to put together for like the World on Water television show and things like that on YouTube. It's just amazing. Some of the sailing.
Yeah, spend all day watching that sort of stuff. And to appreciate quite how on the edge that sailing actually is. The skill that's involved in keeping it that well balanced. You've got to be in awe of those guys when they've got it going well.
Awesome. Another funny question. I'll let Mark answer if he knows the answer. Who can do more push-ups?
The coach, me.
Nevin, Dane, do you have anything?
I'll give Mark this one. I think we might beat him in everything else besides push-ups.
Maybe a future Instagram challenge amongst the three of you.
I'm game.
We'll see. Well, Mark will set the bar, and then we'll try to beat it.
Yeah, I'm too old for Instagram.
Awesome. And then let me see here. Another one. So a little more back to the more sailing oriented. How did the squad model that the 49ers adopted help the whole U.S. effort throughout the trials? Mark, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think a few years ago, Charlie McKee was super keen on bringing the US more of a group that they could all sort of help each other, rely on each other, and have that driving the momentum forwards. And we had a good group of sailors who sort of bought into that model, recognized it, and the commitment from the sailors was the key to it all, really, because as soon as one of them sort of said, no, this isn't for me, or this isn't working for me, it would quite quickly undo all that work of the whole squad. So the commitment from the sailors was amazing, and we managed to build on that, which kind of drove itself at that stage. There was that point of where people are like, well, if they're going sailing, we want to be going sailing as well. So suddenly it kind of looked after itself. Nobody wanted to miss a session. Everybody wanted to help each other to a certain degree, because if you're helping somebody else, you should be taking from it as well. So they were winning. Both teams or every team in the squad was winning at that stage. So then it just came a bit of management of time, making sure expectations of people, the respect within the squad, making sure that was maintained. And the guys, they were all very mature about it. And the result was you always ended up with somebody else that could get on the water, complete a drill with you. And when it's tough, when you might not necessarily want to be there on some days when it's raining, miserable, whatever, somebody else, there's another team there pushing you along. So the session never finishes early. You've always got somebody else who's trying to take from it. So you end up with that little bit of extra time. I don't know, the whole thing, the guys did a great job of helping each other, making the hours easier to be on the water together. And also the off the water part, the debrief part, the value of sharing each other's skills, things they've learned on the water that day. It's not just coming from one voice, from my voice. Actually, the guys did a great job of being very open, sharing their finds for the day, their little treasures, and the banter that you can have with 6 or 8 guys bouncing off each other in that kind of environment. They kept everybody on their toes.
Awesome. Nevin, do you want to share anything from a sailor's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly like the way it all worked is basically, as Mark alluded to, but I guess just more off the water too, as you're traveling Europe for, a couple months on end, and you're away from home, which for a lot of us was the West Coast, not everyone, but for a lot of us was pretty far. So just kind of being together, we all rented a van together. We rented one of Mark's vans, which I'm not sure he's going to let us do again. But on that note, it was a ton of fun. And, like he said, it made the training way more, it made it tougher. It made it more efficient. And, it didn't get old doing it because we were all together. We'd live together most of the time, things like that. So I don't think I would ever do it another way than that. And frankly, if anyone asked me, I don't think I would recommend another way to do it. So yeah, it's great. Still is great. We're still talking to all the guys now, and people are taking time off, but we're making plans to, keep the group rolling for 2024, 2020 now and 2021. So
great. Was there anything you wanted to add, Dane, or you boys ready for the next?
No, I mean, I think it was one of the big attributes or factors that made me join the team, just knowing you get to sail against all these really, really good sailors. So I think in that sense, it was really, really helpful. I don't think we'd be here if we didn't have anyone to sail against like all the time that were top level sailors. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing too, Justine, is that like inevitably someone starts off like at a higher level than everyone else. And, I think in a way our hats are kind of off to Judge and Hans in that respect, because they had been sailing the boat together for 1.5 years or so, 2 years. And almost everybody else, it was basically their first day in a 49er when the group was kind of formed. And so for them, I think it was a bit tedious at the beginning, but they were total teammates about it. And, I guess I just wanted to, shout them out because they did a great job sort of starting and keeping everyone together in a way like that. And then it became its own thing. So it was great.
Yeah, no, awesome. Sounds stronger together for sure. Excited to see what's to come in the future years. And then just to touch on that a little is, do you have any advice that you can offer sailors that are thinking about starting their own campaigns, whether it's for the next quad or in 2028? I mean, I know we have a lot of younger sailors listening in to this, but just some ideas and general perspective of what it was like, and any advice you can give. We can start with you, Dane.
I don't know. I think kind of what Nevin was saying, you just tell people you're doing it. And I think like I kind of for a little bit did like half school, half sailing. And I think that's an easy way to kind of start off doing it. But I think to do it the way that you want to do it, I think you have to really commit to it. And I don't know, I think just going just all in, you can't really, half it, like you have to be all in or nothing, because these boats, especially in the 49ers, they're really hard to sail, and they require a lot of time to get good. So I think, I don't know, just go for it, all the little stuff kind of comes and everything kind of fills in as you go. But if you don't commit fully, I don't think it's really worth it, because it's tough. But keep moving.
Yeah,
no, for sure. Nevin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think certainly, like, I think before we started this conversation, before we went online, I was telling you guys about how, like, in the past talk, people had asked me what the hardest part about starting the campaign is. And, you know, I was saying that, and it's not a joke, but literally the hardest part for me was just telling people that, you know, I am doing an Olympic campaign, because there's the kind of this gray area, especially in the US, of like, you know, I don't know how to sail the boat. Maybe don't even own the boat. I have no idea how to get this thing going. And the hardest part for me, and the part that eventually got the ball rolling, was literally just saying, like, I'm doing an Olympic campaign. And you know, anyone that asked, maybe people that didn't even ask, I would just tell them that. So definitely, you know, once it's the only way to sort of start getting kind of whether it's the insider tips about where to stay, or how to save money, or how to find the best coach or teammate, you know, you don't learn those things until you're kind of inside, you know, working hard with the rest of the world. And so you got to get there. That's got to be part of the goal in the first bit, certainly. So
I think that's an interesting place where US Sailing's doing a better job now. The opportunities for younger sailors, which are looking to, thinking in their own heads, do you know what, an Olympic campaign sounds like something I want to do. I think there's more camps, more opportunities. Leandro's doing a great job with the development program coming up, for them to get in touch, have somebody they can talk to, come and actually see a camp, get involved and see what a typical sailing camp looks like, a training camp looks like. And then really get a feel of, if they've got it in their hearts, if they've got it in their minds that they want to do an Olympic campaign, well, they're in a much better place now for getting support and help to achieve that.
Yeah, no, it is awesome to see what Leandro's put together, and US Sailing, and supporting the Olympic Development Program. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe a lot of campaigners participate in those camps as well, and are sailing alongside a lot of the up and coming sailors.
If we can line it up, and probably with more domestic sailing happening this year, it's always good to have more and more boats around that, of all the levels that are there. For the younger ones to look up and kind of go, right, so we need to do a few more hours, and for the other ones, for the more experienced guys, it just puts more boats around them. You know, it gives them plenty to think about, and they're there on hand. They'll happily talk to any of the younger guys, give them some tips, try and fast track them a little bit where they've made mistakes. We all trip up, but if you can share that experience with some of the younger sailors, they may be able to avoid some of them. Some of them they just got to make and just experience it, but some of the other ones we can bypass and save them some money.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that sparked a quick question of how many capsizes have you had? I think overall, I don't know if we're counting. Maybe the first time sailing the boat, or it wasn't specific.
The question makes it sound like we keep a tally.
Yeah, I think going into the 49er, like there's the first week, or maybe not even that, but you're kind of excited, like, wow, that was a crazy wipeout, or that was a fun flip. Mm-hmm. And then you go through a month and you're so over flipping, and you flip all the time. So I don't even know. There's so many flips.
Yeah, I mean, if you're training hard in the day, San Francisco, it can be 3, 4, 5 capsizes, you know, before you're even halfway done with the day, in a way. So,
you know, last summer we went to, we spent a lot of time in San Francisco, did a couple of great camps there. And there were a couple of days where if the guys hadn't capsized in the first hour, we would just go searching and searching for harder and harder places until they basically couldn't pull it away. If they couldn't bear it away, we'd probably found the right spot, and we'd stay there for half an hour, and see if they could actually achieve it. And that's pretty much what we were searching for. We're finding the limit of what we can do, what we can't do. And San Francisco worked well for us from that perspective of being able to move around the bay a little bit and find the places where we couldn't do it, shift over a little bit, right, let's just get better, then move over back into the tough stuff again. And you could see the development even in one session, you know, from day to day. The improvements were there to be seen and videoed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They say if you're not flipping, you're not pushing it to the edge, right? Okay, here's a fun one. If Nevin and Dane, if you two were to switch positions in the 49er, who would do a better job in the other person's role?
Dane would do a better job.
Yeah, go.
But he skippered a couple of years. So, but no, Dane would do a much better job. We switch like sometimes on the way in or out to the race course, and it's pretty fun. So I don't know. I'm definitely the weak link though.
Hardly. Okay, here's a fun one. Have you named your boat? And if so, what's it called?
The donkey, right? Or the...
Yeah, we've got a couple names. We're lucky enough to have a couple boats, but the one we just raced the worlds with, both worlds, is the donkey, and that's a donor of ours. You know, had this basically this work of art and transformed it into this big spinnaker with a donkey on it. It basically was a ton of fun, and we definitely stood out. So it kind of became our moniker, and that's one of the name of the boats. And what's the other boat's name is Nike, which is, you know, the Greek goddess, and maybe not as funny in a way, but still cool, I guess.
So this is a follow-up to the push-up challenge. I'll start with you, Mark. What is your favorite go-to home workout program? Online video, DVD, YouTube, unrelated to any team programs?
You know, there's a guy in the UK that's just fired up or become super popular in this recent times called Joe Wicks. And he does these live workouts every morning for half an hour, 9 till 9:30. For any American that's either up early or to bed late, whichever way you look at it. But Joe Wicks online, and he does these morning half an hour workouts that you can do with your kids, but is also challenging enough that you can get a bit of a sweat on as an adult. So we've been getting into those every day.
Awesome. Dane, you have a favorite go-to?
I wouldn't say a favorite, but when I first got back, I did the Murph challenge, which is exhausting and terrible, which is run a mile, do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then run a mile. And then I'm going to do it at the end and see if I improve. So it's not enjoyable though.
I don't know. My favorite workout, basically anything to get your heart rate going at home, I think is pretty good. You know, sometimes it's hard when you're just inside your house to, you know, spike your heart rate. So biking's been really good, and we're lucky in California to be able to bike outdoors and, you know, kind of be away from people. So that's been getting me going. It's pretty amazing how it does not take many like air squats for it to really burn. So I would challenge anyone out there to find a workout that involves like 20 or more air squats and see how your quads feel the next day, just doing a few of those. So pretty good. That's my favorite.
Yeah, awesome. So a question came up is, do you track your workouts using any apps, and is there a way to follow you?
I have a Whoop, which is it's a good way. I don't know how well it is for tracking and stuff, but if you want to see how hard I work, you can follow me there. Kind of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've been using Strava a lot more since we've been on our bikes and, you know, jogging and things like that. So you can find us on Strava, certainly. Other than that, yeah, I don't know if I really post workouts. Like, I don't know. It's interesting when we're in Europe and stuff like that, sailing the 49er, you know, we're trying to push for pretty long days. So a lot of the stuff around that's kind of just sort of like maintenance work. And so it's been kind of fun to be home and kind of, in a way, just try to push it to get stronger in a way. Because when we're training, it's, you know, you're focused on sailing the boat so much that, yeah.
Awesome. So they'll look you up on Strava.
Mm-hmm.
Nevin, this is a question for you. When you did some sailing on the Gravedigger, the M32, what was the Red Dog move?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I mean, I was the tactician. I don't even know what one of our major plays was. This is kind of bad. Oh, I think I know what it was. It wasn't like a crash tack or anything like that. So like the M32, you know, it's a 32-foot catamaran. It's really wide, like big catamarans are. And it just has a tiller. So it's actually kind of hard as the skipper to cross the boat, because you are kind of like walking with, you know, you're walking along the tiller bar. Maybe Red Dog was, if we had to do like a crash tack or jibe, I would go and like help steer the other half so everyone could switch sides really fast. And the skipper, I wasn't the skipper, but the skipper could like literally run to the other side as opposed to kind of having to baby the tiller. That might have been it. I'm thinking either that, or it was like, you know, the reaching start in those boats is really cool and fun. I'd definitely recommend, you know, obviously it's an expensive boat in a small class, so yeah, take any advantage you can if anyone listening has a chance to sail them. But it might have been like in the pre-start when you're doing a reaching start, you know, everyone's kind of moving towards the line really slowly on a sort of upwind course. And so it might have been like, you know, when you take like an attacking move to kind of dive into someone's hole on a starting line, you can do it quite a bit faster than you can on an upwind start, because it's like literally a beam reach into the hole below somebody. So I don't know. Sorry, whoever that question was from, but it could have been any one of those moves.
Yeah, they can pipe up on the chat.
Yeah,
if it wasn't a sufficient answer.
Yeah.
Here's a fun one from a coach from your past, Nevin, and it's for all three of you. We can start with you though, Nevin. What's your competitive alter ego? Like Kobe Bryant's Black Mamba or Dwayne Johnson's The Rock?
I mean, I want to be like LeBron, but I don't think my alter ego is quite like his. It's probably like a quieter Black Mamba. I mean, I'm not really like Kobe, right? He's like one of the greatest, but I want to be like him. But he talked a lot of smack, and I feel like when I'm getting really intense, I don't talk as much smack, although maybe I do. I'll just black out like you do in those situations. I don't know. What about you, Dane?
I don't know. I think I have to think about that and come back at some point. But definitely want to channel that Kobe Bryant Black Mamba. That's the goal, or any one of those top.
Could be like Batman, you know, the Dark Knight. And he goes from Bruce Wayne, Mr. Cool Guy, celebrity, to super deep voice.
Yeah, but sometimes I wish there was more trash talk in sailing, but everyone seems pretty nice on top of their
whenever we've tried to jokingly trash talk at practice, inevitably someone takes it like too personally, and Dan and I'll just laugh on board thinking how they didn't get it. But
misunderstood sailors.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Wrong sport.
Mark, you look like you have something to add in to the alter ego.
I think it's a great question. Listening to the guys try and describe themselves as the from a third person point of view, you know, what are their alter egos? It's just good to listen to. It's good listening.
No, for sure. Here's a little bit easier one to answer. Which athletes inspire you most outside of the sport of sailing? You touched on it a little bit with LeBron, but
I will say though that back to the alter ego real quick, but I think Mark is kind of like the band instructor from Whiplash, if anyone's ever seen that movie, where he just makes them practice until they bleed and shows no emotion about it. And they succeed in the end, and he still is like weird about it. That's Mark. No.
I have to go and watch that film now.
What do you think, Dane? Who's your favorite athlete or inspiration?
I don't know. I think you try to I watch a lot of different sports, And I think you're always just kind of drawn to the top guys, whether it's basketball or surfing or soccer or whatever it is. But I think you just try to kind of emulate their game or their style. Like you watch Steph Curry, who's insane, and he just looks like he's having fun the whole time. And you be the NBA finals and he looks super chill and doing nothing, and you wish you could do that. Or you watch like Kobe play, and he's super intense, and you know he's going to bring it every time. So you kind of try to balance that or whatnot. Or if you watch Kelly Slater surf, and he's also a super intense, and he's going to win no matter his age. So I don't know, you try to channel as much as you can and bring as much of yourself into that as much as well. So I don't know, it's a tough question, but
if you can't tell, we love basketball. So we're secretly we're dying right now because the season was heating up until obviously catastrophe struck, which it's all good that it's not happening. But I don't know. Yeah, like I think someone like Kai Lenny, you know, like it's so effortless, like the performances and the skills that they put on, but you know they're working. They've got to be working super hard behind the scenes, you know. And someone more like LeBron James, he's like so impressive, but he has a huge media team, you know, so you can sort of get glimpses into how hard he's working. So yeah, it's kind of interesting in the 21st century, like who do you idolize? Like inevitably it's just people that have really good social media, I guess, in a way, but definitely there's other people out there that are super impressive that are just working hard. But
yeah, awesome. All right, so just ask for final questions, so we'll be wrapping up shortly, but a couple more before we go is how has the limited time together helped with your success? Seems to be a different mindset than a team that's been at it for a while. Dane, do you want to start with that one?
I think just we can bring the intensity for a year and not have to say, oh, we have 4 years to do this. Or I wouldn't exactly recommend teaming up for a year and trying to do the best you can, because I think there's a lot of holes that we are trying to fill. But yeah, I think we know that we don't have much time and each second on the water counts. So I think we can bring our A game each and every time, where if you have a 4-year campaign, maybe you take a little bit more time here and there. And yeah, I'd say more time sailing is better though. So yeah, I'd recommend sailing with a person longer than 9 months before a qualification. But
I don't know. On the flip side of that though, like because we only had such a short amount of time, we had to get really serious about like what it is that we wanted to accomplish. And I think we kind of took that onto ourselves, kind of outside of the squad group really well. Whereas, you know, if you sail with someone for a long period of time, sometimes you can sort of think that these things are assumed and you don't like ever unearth them or, you know, get through the strengths and weaknesses. And so, I don't know, going into the Worlds, we really knew what our strengths were and we really knew what our weaknesses were. And, you know, did we nail both of them? Not really, but at least we knew it. So I think that was something to be said for our short amount of time together.
Yeah, definitely. Anything you wanted to add, Mark? If not, I have a question directly for you from the audience.
Oh, really? No, it's funny from having been in the 49er class for literally 20 years now, and you know, some of the same faces which are still there, or have certainly been there for a number of years, and you kind of look at them and they're really struggling to get over a bit of a hill, and already these guys have taken that hill on and seem as though they've got over the top of it, where people who have been in the class 10, 12 years, there's something about the way they train, there's something that's just not clicking for them as a team or as individuals, and they're just not able to put it together when it comes to a regatta. And I think, yeah, maybe the freshness that these guys have as, you know, such a young team, and they're very, very open with each other, and accepting of some of their shortfalls and stuff, that they do actually get on and look to change themselves as much as they're sailing on each review. And that, I think, is the only way you can move forwards in a class which has become one of the most competitive there is out there.
Oh, awesome. And we're going to wrap up with this final question for you, Mark, is what is the last line of your pre-competition pump-up speech? If you can share it.
You see, I'm British like this, and I don't think they don't really get a big briefing before we go out there. You know, it's pretty straight talking. These are the important bits, and probably the thing I say most frequently in the last line is probably, now go and enjoy it. It's no more than that. You know, all the training, the guys work hard in the training. They can only, when it comes to the racing, they can only deliver on what we've trained on. So as long as they go out and enjoy it, then then we've done our bit as a coach.
Yeah, no, awesome. Anything else from anyone? We've been on the air for an hour, so it's been my pleasure to get to know you three gentlemen more, and I know the audience as well has enjoyed this bit. But I want to just say thanks to everyone for watching and tuning in to the Starboard Portal. If you liked what you saw today, stay tuned to the schedule. We have a lot of great segments featuring our team athletes coming up. On Thursday, we have our laser radial athletes, Paige Rayleigh, Erica Reinecke, and Charlotte Rose, going live at noon Eastern. Boys, be sure to tune in. And thanks for Nevin, Dane, and Mark for joining us. The amount of progress these guys have made in such a short time is so impressive. And we can't wait to see what you do next. It does take a village to get these athletes to the games. So if you'd like to support Nevin and Dane or the team, you can find them the info in the description of this panel, and check them out on Facebook, Instagram. Don't miss that push-up challenge. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and everyone enjoyed their Monday.
Nice. Thanks, Justine.